Good day, welcome to our lesson for today, which is all about the plant tissues. But before we discuss the plant tissues, let us all define the definition of tissue. We all know that the tissue is a group of cells that performs essentially the same function. If we look back in the logical hierarchy of biological organization, all organism is composed of cells, and then later on tissues, organs, and an organ system. Classification of plant tissues. We all know that the plant tissues is divided into two, the meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. When we are talking about meristematic, it is primarily concerned with formation of new cells by division. And kapag sinasabi naman po natin permanent, it is the tissues that stop to divide, having gained new parts or lost old ones to perform a specialized permanent functions. Si meristematic, binubuo naman po ng apical, intercalary, and lateral, while the permanent tissues composed of the simple tissues and the complex tissues. The simple tissues is for ground tissues and supporting tissues, which is the collenchyma and parenchyma, while the complex tissues is for protection, support, and vascular. Pag-usapan naman po natin yung tinatawag na meristematic tissue. Pag sinasabi po natin na meristematic tissue, the primarily concerned with the formation of cells or the new cells by division. Binubuo po ito ng tatlong parts: the apical, the intercalary, and the lateral meristem. Pag sinasabi po natin na apical meristem, ito po yung group of meristematic tissue na makikita po natin at the tip of a plant. So makita po natin to sa pinakataas na part ng isang halaman, na siya pong dahilan kung bakit po nag-i-increase in height at length ang plants. Kapag sinasabi po natin na increase in height, ito po yung shoot apical meristem. At pag sinasabi naman po natin na increase in length o yung haba, ito naman po yung tinatawag na root apical meristem. The increase in height and length by the apical meristem ay tinatawag po na primary growth. And pag sinasabi naman po natin na intercalary meristem, ito naman po yung responsible or capable para po sa cell division and nag-aalaw po for rapid growth and regeneration of the lost or damaged part of a plant. Makikita po natin itong intercalary between the two nodes. Ibig sabihin po sa internodes. Okay po? So, internodes. And ito po yung dahilan kung bakit po bumibilis yung paglaki o yung paghaba ng isang halaman. At pag sinasabi naman po natin na lateral meristem, ito po yung mga group of actively dividing cells na nag-occupy po sa lateral position or doon po sa parehong sides ng isang halaman and then ng roots. Ito po yung dahilan kung bakit po lumalapad o nagkakaroon po ng increase sa width, diameter, and girth ang isang halaman. At yan po yung tinatawag natin na lateral meristem. And when we are talking about the permanent tissues, these are the tissues that cease or stop to divide, having gained new parts or lost old ones to perform a specialized permanent functions. At nahati po ito sa dermal tissues, the vascular tissues, and then the fundamental tissues. Kapag sinasabi po natin na dermal tissues is the outer protective covering tissue of the plant that includes the epidermis and then the periderm. Kapag sinasabi po natin na epidermis, it is the outer layer of the cells of all aerial organs. So kasama po dyan yung leaves and then the flowers. So kung makikita nyo pa sa screen, the outer protective layer is the epidermis. And when we are talking about periderm, it is the outer covering of the stems and then the roots. So technically, makikita po natin itong periderm sa mga woody plants. That's the example of the dermal tissue. And kapag sinasabi naman po natin na vascular tissues, The conducting tissue of the plant, which functions for food, water, and mineral distribution in the plant body. So kung makikita nyo po kanina, this one is the vascular tissue of a leaf. So yung paghinati po natin at makikita natin sa microscope. So, eto po, ang unang diagram is the vascular tissue of a root, and then yung pangalawa naman po is the vascular tissue of a stem. Pareho po silang binubuo ng tinatawag natin na xylem and then the phloem. Lagi lang po natin tatandaan na pag sinasabi po natin na xylem, the principal water conducting tissue in vascular plants. So technically, sila po yung sa water distribution, water and mineral distribution. Kapag sinasabi naman po natin na phloem, ito naman po yung para sa food distribution. Okay, mula po sa stem papunta po sa leaves. So, yan po yung trabaho ng ating mga vascular tissues. So again, the phloem and then the xylem. And when we're talking about the fundamental tissue, the entire complex of ground tissue composed of the cortex and the pith. Yung cortex and pith po, pag sinasabi natin na cortex, the layer of tissue between the vascular tissue and epidermis. So, ibig sabihin po, between the dermal tissue and then the vascular. And kapag sinasabi naman po natin na pith, the ground tissue toward the interior of the vascular tissue. Makikita po natin sila sa stem and sa root. So, yung po pagkakaiba ng cortex and then the pith. Si cortex, between the vascular and epidermis. Si pith naman po sa ground tissue toward the interior of the vascular tissue. Ngayon po, pag sinasabi natin na fundamental, binubuo po ito ng mga fundamental cell types. Yung diniscuss po natin earlier, which is the parenchymal tissue, collenchymal tissue, and sclerenchymal tissue. Pag sinasabi po natin na parenchyma, all living cells with uniformly thin walls. Ibig sabihin po, dito po nangyayari, okay, yung mga tinatawag natin na photosynthetic tissue of a leaf. And ang dahilan po kung bakit merong soft flesh yung mga prutas. Pag sinasabi naman po natin na collenchyma, unevenly thickened cell walls naman po. And ito po yung dahilan kung bakit po matibay, okay, meron pong strength at kaya pong tumayo sa malalakas na bagyo at ulan ng isang halaman. And kapag sinasabi naman po natin na sclerenchyma, ito naman po yung mga thick and rigid cell walls. Sila din po yung nag-serve as strengthening elements and support para po sa isang mature plant parts. And to end our discussion, always remember that roots, stems, and leaves may show variation in the manner in which their tissues are arranged. However, they are still basically made of same permanent tissues that include dermal, vascular, and fundamental tissues.